Hello amazing people, and thank you for dropping by my channel. This is going to be the third and last episode of the GitHub Copilot series. In the first episode, I showed you how GitHub Copilot performs in a vanilla project using Python, Node.js, and Bash. In the second episode, I showed you how GitHub Copilot performs in an existing open source project, and I showed you how it writes unit tests as well as documentation. In this episode, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, where I'm going to be solving a problem with Copilot, and then I'm going to solve it again without Copilot. And for both of these trials, I'm going to be timing them. And we're going to see if Copilot actually brings any performance improvements or efficiencies to how I write my code. And at the end of the episode, I'm going to give you my honest opinion about this tool and what I think of it and whether it makes you a better developer overall or worse. Stick around. This is going to be a very interesting episode. My name is Bassem, and this is Git. Before we dig into the details of this video, I want to thank two special people, Joe Rahme and Johannes Nikolai. Both of them pointed out on the same day that I had made a mistake in the last segment of the first video I did about Copilot when we were discussing the Bash solution. Copilot actually spits out the correct result, and I completely dismissed it because I was not familiar with one of the parameters that was also provided as part of that solution. As you can see here, Copilot actually recommends the appropriate solution with the grep-q needle variable and then the path. If you look at the manual for grep, you can see that the -q parameter means silent and suppress normal output. This is exactly why when we call the script, we don't get anything in return. It's because the q is actually suppressing this search outcome from being displayed in our terminal. I guess we are all learning every day. If you find anything in my videos that you'd like to mention or shout out, please feel free to drop it in the comments and I will make sure to mention you and highlight it in the next videos that I make. Thank you in advance. As usual, we're gonna start the episode by me talking about what we're gonna be doing. And today, I'm gonna be implementing a small Node.js API wrapper on top of one of GitHub's REST API endpoints. I say wrapper and not a facade because it's not gonna do much. We're simply gonna call this API, we're gonna parse the response, and we're gonna apply some small minor business logic on top of the response that we get. I'm gonna be implementing this twice, the first time with GitHub Copilot enabled and the second time without it. I'm gonna be timing both of these trials and we're gonna compare the time towards the end of this video to see if GitHub Copilot has brought any efficiencies to the development process. I'm gonna be doing this implementation as if I am on the job. I'm gonna be researching certain concepts, Googling things. I'm gonna be taking my time with it, and I'm not gonna rush it. I also have to reiterate that I have not solved this recently, so I really have no idea how the solution is gonna turn out and what it's gonna look like. In the first trial, I'm just gonna let Copilot run a little bit wild, and I'm just gonna steer it in the right direction. In the second trial, I'm gonna assume that I already know how to do it, and I'm gonna rely on my memory to redo the implementation. The idea here is that if GitHub Copilot's trial was faster than me doing it from memory, that means that GitHub Copilot can add a lot of benefits on top of your existing experience, and it can actually make you, even if you are a senior developer, a little bit more efficient. And we're gonna see by how much. However, if it turns out that the Copilot run was slower than me doing it from memory, then we have a little bit of question marks about Copilot's added value here. I really have no idea how this is gonna turn out. I'm really curious about the outcomes, so let's get started. So the API endpoint we're gonna be implementing the wrapper for is the list repositories in an organization. And this is a very simple call. It uses the get method to call this path. And it accepts a few parameters, some sorting parameter, pagination parameters, so on and so forth. We're not gonna be really dealing with those. And this is the sample curl request that you can do. I already have one prepared, so I'm gonna demonstrate this for you right away just to make sure that the API works. So you can see here in the terminal that I am passing an authentication token or a personal access token, as we call it at GitHub, here in the header. And I've already stored this personal access token in a file, which I'm reading here because I don't want to expose it in this demo. You can obviously write it as a string right away, or you can do it in this method. I have specified the organization name, which is Beirut org. And if you want, you can also use JQ to clean up the response. Let's do that. We will get a cleaner colored response that is easier to read. And as you can see here, we get an array of objects, and each one of these objects is basically the ID, the full name of the repo, the name of the repository, and full name is basically just the owner or organization in this case, and then slash the repository name, and then some other metadata for it. With this quick demonstration that the API endpoint works, we're gonna jump to our editor and we're gonna start the implementation of the wrapper. To save some time, as you can see, I've already created the projects folder, and I have ran npm init to initialize a Node.js project in this repo. We're not going to run it again because I've already done so. We're going to jump right away to our Visual Studio Code so that we can start by creating our first file. Let's call this one index.js. At this point, I'm going to start the timer. And we're gonna run our first experiment with GitHub Copilot enabled, as you can see here. So first things first, we're gonna be telling GitHub Copilot what it needs to do. Write a class called GitHub client that will make requests to GitHub API. That sounds good. The GitHub client should have a constructor that accepts a username and a token. Yes. The GitHub client should have a method called getRepos that returns a promise. That sounds perfect. That resolves to an array of objects representing the user's repo. The GitHub client should have a... No, we don't need that one. So let's see the implementation, how it's going to look like. Let's start with class, GitHub client. There we go. We have our constructor that accepts a username and a token, and then getRepos will basically use fetch to make a call to the API. And this one is fetching the user repos. We need the organization repos. And it looks like it is passing the access token in the path. This is not correct, but this looks like a good start. So we are gonna be using it, but refining it a little bit. And I don't think we're gonna be needing the username here and the token because we're gonna be using the personal access token. So maybe let's refine this a little bit. The GitHub client should have a method called or should have a constructor that accepts a personal access token. The GitHub client should have a method called getRepos, or let's call it getOrgRepos, which will accept an org name and return, let's enable word wrapping here, and return an array of repo objects. Yes, that's correct. We don't need that second part. So let's begin the implementation. Class GitHub client, constructor takes a token. Yes, getOrgRepos, it makes a call to the correct endpoint this time, and we are passing the access token right here, and it returns the response. So this looks okay, but this is not necessarily correct because the APIs do not accept the access token like this, and we need to pass the token as a header. So let's fix this. Pass the personal access token as a header parameter. Yes, they are correct. The response should be an array. Yes, that's correct. Should have following properties. No, I don't really care. Actually, let's follow that. Okay, let's see. Constant options is equal headers. Yes. Authorization. Perfect. Yes. Correct. Correct. And now we are making the correct API call, and then we return the response. Yes, that is perfect. And now it is trying to do exactly what we told it to do. it's returning the appropriate objects in the response. And now this part is not needed anymore. And I think this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. Let's attempt now to consume this client. Use the GitHub client to make a request or to get the repos of an organization, of Beirut.org. Let's see what happens now. I don't really care. Nope. Okay, fine, I don't care. Nope, it's just reiterating it. Let's try it the other way. Create an instance of GitHub client and call get org repos with the name of the org you want to get repos for. Yes, that's correct. Now, how do we do it? Constant GitHub equals, yes, that's perfect. And there we go. There we go. That's basically our implementation, right? So we are going to read the access token from the file. Read the token from the file located in ghe.repo all path. There we go. And now we just need to pass this token right here and also pass the org name, which is Beirut.org. Yeah, wow, this is crazy. Let's try it out. So the way we do this is by calling node, and we're gonna be calling index.js. All right, so we have some problems because fs is not defined. That's fine. We can say here constant fs is equal to require fs. And I think it's going to complain about fetch as well. Import fetch. Yes, I think node fetch is not installed, so we most likely need to add it as a dependency. Done. And what else? I think this is it, so let's run it again. Oops, sorry, not this one. Import path. There we go. Run it again. Oh, this is amazing. This is the list of repositories with the parameters that we asked for. I'm going to stop the timer now, and we're going to try this again without Copilot. Now, we're going to attempt to implement this without Copilot enabled. I have cleaned up the repository or the folder, and I have deleted the index.js file. As you can see here, the size is 0, removed the dependencies and whatnot. And I'm going to try to re-implement this same solution without GitHub Copilot enabled. Obviously with a little bit less comments, but with a lot more Googling, because I frankly do not remember all of the details of the implementation that Copilot suggested right now. So let us do that. I am going to start the timer after I disable Copilot. So let's disable it globally. You can see here it's in red, which means that Copilot will not be suggesting anything. And for us to prove that, I'm going to say implement a GitHub client. Let's say client that does, as you can see, it's not suggesting anything, which means that it has been disabled. And with that, we're going to start the implementation right now, and I'm going to start the timer. So the first thing we did was to implement a GitHub client class, and that class had a constructor, and that constructor takes a token, if I'm not mistaken, right? And as you can see here already, I'm really struggling to, not struggling, but I'm writing a lot of stuff. So this dot token is equal to token. We didn't really do much validation on that token before. And then we implemented a method called get org repos, and that takes an org, let's say org name or org, whatever, as a parameter. And then get org repos basically uses fetch. Now, how do we use node fetch? I honestly forgot. So let's do what we normally would. Node fetch. Let's look up the documentation, and I think it's right here. So npm I to install it, and then we have some documentation for how to use it. So let's do that. Let's first install npm node fetch. Sorry, not npm. Let's install node fetch, and this is the common usage. Plain text JSON. We need the JSON, right? So let's copy this and let's add it to our. Let's call this response, right? Because we are fetching this, and then the API endpoint is this one, which takes an org and then / repos. So orgs, and then the org name. Let's fix this one. Oops, that's not the intention. Org and then repos, right? Obviously, we're not doing here any validation on the input. This is completely wrong, but anyways, for now. Okay, so fetch, we need to import it, right? Because we did not. And we can do that with constant fetch, require node fetch. That's correct. So fetch is now enabled, and then the response comes in. We parse it, and then we do a console.log for the output, right? And now we need to try this out. So let's take constant GitHub new GitHub client, and it should take a token as a parameter. Let's keep it empty for now. And then we can say console.log github.get org repos for the organization Beirut.org, right? That's basically what we would like to do. But also, because I don't want to expose the token, I need to read the token from the file. So Node.js read text file, right? So again, our best buddy, Stack Overflow. And let's see what it says. Require fs. Yeah, this should work, right? Also this. Well, yeah, I don't care really if it's async. It's just a small token, so we might as well do it in a synchronous manner. Require fs, and let's replace this as constant, and constant path equals require path. And let's build up the file token file path is equal to path dot Node.js construct path. Let's see how this one works. I think we're gonna be needing the path dot join, right? Oops. So path dot join, and then we were using an environment variable, I think, for the home path, right? If I'm not mistaken. So let me try something. Echo home. Yes, this is it. So path dot join. What do we need to join? Process.inf.home. Right, that's the environment variable for home. And then we added to that the .ghe and then dot repo all path. That's the name of the file. Correct. And obviously, because we don't have anything to validate this, we're gonna have to test it out ourselves. So let's do a quick trial run to check if this works. So node index.js, yes, this is the correct path. And now we're gonna pass this, we're gonna read the token, sorry, and we can do that with this one, right? Instead of this, we're gonna have to replace it with the token file path. And let's give this a shot, token. If you'll excuse me, I'm gonna be running this test in another terminal, just because again, I do not want to expose the token myself. So let's go to the folder, GHAPI, node index.js. Yes, I got the correct result. So I know that the token is passed correctly here. And now we're gonna replace this with token value. And we're gonna try to make the call. This isn't doing much for now. Let's keep it. We're gonna fix this up a little bit, but let's first see if this API call is correct. Oh, we did not authorize it. Right, so const options is equal to, and we need to add the header parameters, right? So how do we do that with node fetch? Let's close these unnecessary tabs. Let's say header. Where is that information? I don't want to access the response headers. I want to set headers. That doesn't help. So again, Googling node fetch, set header, set headers. And our best friend, where's Stack Overflow? There it is. And nope. Okay, so it's just a very basic, simple object. Let's try it out. Authorization, bearer. No, let's fix this. Bearer, and then we need to pass this token to it, right? If I'm not mistaken. And then we need to pass the options. Oops, here. I'm actually not sure if this is correct, to be honest. I think we need to fix this. Sorry. Header. And then another object within it. Yeah, I think now this will work. This matches this. And the method is get, which is fine. Let's keep it. I think that's the default. Let's do a quick trial, node index.js. And there we go. We have undefined because I think I did a console.log for, oh, it's doing this. This is wrong. Oh, no, sorry. I don't think that's the, no. I think this is what's returning the undefined, right? Let's run this like that. Yes, and I think this is the correct way. But it's just returning one item, right? But we don't really care. Okay, for now at least. It should return multiple items, not just one item. What's going on here? Yeah, I'm already thinking that Copilot was really helping a lot with this, to be honest. Because now I have to go through all of the details of the implementation and there are things that are going wrong. And I have to think a lot harder now. Okay. So we make the call to fetch, then we return the response, then we return the JSON parsed output, and then we are simply dumping it. Then response, see what happens here. And let's do this. Okay, this is correct because we return the promise and then we handle the response from that promise. Now what we want to do is we want to remap this object, right? And we want some specific items from it. So let's look up how we can do this. I think we need to use the map function. Node remap object remap. And obviously our favorite website where we pick up everything from. Yeah, I don't like this. It's too much work. Copilot already gave us an option that is much faster and better. Okay, let's try this. So the array.map, oops. We have a callback method inside of it, and I don't think this is the proper way to use the map object. Let's look at the proper implementation of this. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking for array.map. Okay, this is what I'm looking for here. So let's put it on our display because we want to re-implement this in the same manner. So map object, let's call this data or repos or whatever. And then we need to recreate this in another form. And let's say repos. Where's the response? We had a few items, right, that we returned. So we need the name. Is equal to repos.name. repos. I think it was HTML and a few other things. Let's say HTML. Let's pick a few. It's irrelevant what we need here. The point is the mapping that's being done, right? We don't really care, so let's just pick a few items here. And I think that should be enough. Let's make sure everything is correct. Why is it complaining about this semicolon here? Oh yes, okay, now that's correct. And we forgot to return it, so return repos, right? And let's do a quick trial to see what's happening. Undefined, 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 that's great. And I think in this case, data does not exist, right? So we made a small mistake, and in this case, it's not repos, it's data, right? And now if we're gonna run it again, we should have the correct information. Now my main problem is that this is only returning one entry, and in the Copilot solution, we actually received all of the repos. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. Most likely, I have a problem with some of my parameters, right? So org, private, or type. Maybe we need to pass the type. Let's try it out. So type equals all. Trial. Unsuccessful. I am passing the correct token, and this token has access to multiple repos. It's probable that, but we are getting a properly formatted. So let's try the per page. Maybe this is the problem. Let's make it 30. Same, only one item. Could this be a problem? Let's see what's coming in here. Yeah, that's expected. So response.body. Okay, it's compressed. Let's try this. It's a promise. Okay, fine. I'm gonna return this the way it was, and maybe, yeah, we did already output the JSON, right? So am I calling the correct endpoint? Orgs, and then the name of the organization, and then repos. Orgs, and then the name of the org, and then repos. And we are passing Beirut org, and this should be correct. How are we doing on time? I think we have passed the time for the GitHub Copilot implementation. Let me think. I'm not sure, to be honest, what's going on here. And it's driving me crazy because I'm having this urge to go back to the Copilot implementation to see what we did there, because this should work, to be honest. And I'm not sure what's going on. And it's been making me a bit not wanting to think for myself anymore, because I've already had the solution in place. That's one of the consequences, I think, of relying a little bit on Copilot. And I'm going to be discussing this in a little bit, whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm gonna stop the implementation right here, even though we have a bug in it. And the bug is that we are getting one repository instead of an array of multiple ones. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Let me check one thing here before we move on. Console.log data. I'm probably remapping it to one. I'm probably remapping everything to one object. No. Nope, we are already getting one item here. This is already returning one item. I'm not entirely sure what happened here. So again, I think we are over time. I'm gonna stop here and do some evaluation.
A few moments later.
After a little bit of head scratching and after going back to the recording of the solution that came from GitHub Copilot, I found the problem, and it's really stupid. I want to share the solution with you. So you can see here I said header. It should be headers. And what has happened here is that when we made the API call to this, the response came with the only public repository that is available in this organization that could be returned when you are unauthenticated. And now that I am passing the proper headers with the authentication token, I should be getting the list of all of the repos. And if I do a quick trial here, you can see that the response now is correct. It's an array with the parameters that I wanted. Well, there you have it, folks. 2 experiments run side by side. 7 minutes was the time it took for me to implement this solution with Copilot enabled. 22 minutes it took me to implement it without Copilot. And I had a bug in the implementation as well. I think this speaks a lot for the benefit of Copilot, to be honest. And I'm going to be very frank with you. I was not really expecting this outcome. I was expecting more of myself, to be honest. But jokes aside, from this experiment, Copilot has granted us with 3 times more efficiency, right? We were able to develop the solution at like 3 times faster than what we would normally would. And imagine if you are dealing with uncharted territory, like if you are building a solution in a framework that you're not really familiar with. Imagine all the Googling and all the searching and all the Stack Overflow answers that you're going to have to go through and experimentation, while Copilot can just spit out an answer. While it might not be 100% correct, it could lead you down a path that can give you that answer at a much, much faster rate than if you would search for it yourself. And I think this is where the secret sauce and this is where the real benefit of Copilot lingers. It is in showing you solutions that you normally would not know to look for. It will basically answer the you don't know what you don't know question, right? It's gonna show you what you don't know, and it's gonna have the same impact and effect as reading someone else's code base. The most learning I've done in my career was when I've read other people's solutions to problems, because they come at them and they approach them from angles that I might not have thought about it myself. And with Copilot's ability to bring in different solutions from what it has learned from all of these public repositories and open source repos, I think this is really a winning method, basically. And my understanding is that Copilot will only become better from here. And as it learns more and more solutions, it's going to be able to give you more and better and more accurate suggestions, let's say, down the line. I think in answering the question of whether Copilot will make you a better developer, something happened in this experiment. And if you rewatch the video, you will notice that because Copilot already spat out the correct answer, I was really bothered by the fact that now I have to go and do the research myself. And when I hit a bug and a blocker, all I could think about was, I want to go and check the answer that came from Copilot. Now, this is troublesome in a way because I'm no longer depending on the documentation, or I'm no longer thinking for myself there. All I can think about is, I want Copilot's answer. I want to solve my problem right now. I really don't want to waste time in trying to look for that answer. And the problem here is that if you don't do this type of jumping through the documentation and doing that research, you're gonna miss out on a lot of learning that you could do tangentially to the problem that you're trying to solve. I think this will cause us to miss on a lot. Now, how does this compare to the new stuff that you're going to be learning from Copilot? I really don't have an empirical answer for that. All I can say is from an experimentation, from a personal, subjective feeling perspective, I feel like you could easily build a dependency on Copilot and be dependent on the tool to spit out the answers and only go search for deeper and deeper solutions when you hit a really severe blocker that Copilot is not able to overcome. And this is fine, I guess. This is fine as long as we are always thinking about what Copilot is spitting out, as long as we are always re-steering it in the appropriate direction, as long as we are keeping the fundamentals in mind while we are still building software, and as long as we're not taking Copilot's answers for granted as the correct solution automatically, I think we should be fine. And I think Copilot in our development journeys is going to be of a lot of added value. This is my perspective on the tool, and I share it with you as objectively as possible. And I'm really looking forward to the next weeks and months of me using Copilot more and more to see how my behavior and how my practices are going to be evolving with this tool. Thank you very much for watching this series about Copilot. I have a lot of awesome topics coming up. We're going to be talking in the next few weeks about GitHub Actions. We're going to be talking about the future of software engineering. I'm going to be bringing some really awesome guests from so many different companies and organizations that are really at the forefront and doing a lot of cutting edge work in our domain. They're going to be speaking about their experiences, their journeys. We're going to be talking about tech and a lot of really awesome stuff. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for watching this episode. If you haven't done so, hit that like and subscribe button right now. Trust me, there's a lot of awesome content that's coming up your way. And again, my name is Bassem, and I will see you next time.